All right, so we're talking about the CI ecosystem of forward facing. My name is David Moss. I am currently from the University of Miami and Florida State, which means I am currently unemployed. I am part-time student, or part-time worker at the University of Miami and a grad student at Florida State. And that's what you do when you don't have a job. You go back to school because that's you got to have something to fill your time. PhDs are fun, right? Who has a PhD? Fun? Yes, absolutely not. Not at all. So, two things. Four face things. I had both talks, and just to keep me and you on our toes because this is a long time, and I don't want to talk the entire time. The four faces is randomly scattered throughout the presentation. So pay attention and remember, this is for your own good. I also have a secret agenda.
Keep going. Keep talking.
I have two secret agendas. The first one is, let's show you this one. This is something I got from SC17. If you were not there, this is Henry. This is Flat Henry. there are pictures of Flat Henry at SC17. He was in restaurants. He was eating candy, and he was at an ACI ref meeting with. As you see, that's he. That's Dana. I'm Dana, as you see with the name tag. And then people from and the shirt too. Look, the same. The shirt like that. So we have shirts from. He was from Southeast Missouri. Yes. So that's their virtual devices. So my entire goal, as Henry says, if he wants to get the center of attention, my entire goal is to get Henry to look up from his laptop during my presentation. Goal number 2. Not gonna happen. So first, are you lonely? You're here, so you're not as lonely as you thought you were. And there was a big email chat going on the last 2 weeks about how many people at your institution does stuff like this, or HPC, or facilitation. And it turns out not many. Everyone has like, as Henry said in his Wii days years ago, that this was new. No one knew what you're supposed to do, and we're trying to come together as groups now. The question is, if you're here, doing great. When you can't Google it, do you remember before there was Google? Anyone? Who had it? 1, 2, that's it, right? Now, someone comes to your office, but the first thing you do, you Google the answer. Because you don't know, someone has to know somewhere. So we got communities of practice. There's a whole bunch. We'll talk about each one, and I want you guys to tell me stories as I go, because once again, I don't want to talk. This is a workshop, not a presentation, so please tell me about it as we go. The first one, Campus Champions, because we have Henry in the room and Dana, who are co-leads of the champion program. Let's talk about that first. As Henry said earlier, there's like 500 champions in a whole bunch of institutions. It's free. There used to be an MOU, then it became a letter. Now it's going to be like a post-it note to say you agree to volunteer to do stuff. It's a large organization. They get together at the new PERC conference. Anyone tell me what PERC stands for? Who went to the PERC conference? Practice and experience. What's the A stand for? Advanced research shooting stuff. So that used to be the Exceed conference. Exceed is the sponsor of the Campus Champion program. As you see the third bullet, who knows what Exceed stands for? Go.
Extreme Science Engineering Discovery Environment.
Discovery environment. You can go play in some fancy playground, learn new stuff. So this was the official Exceed org chart, and I don't like org charts very much, but I like pictures. So the guy who John Towns at NCSA, University of Illinois. So remember him because he's important. Any big meeting, he is the guy that helped all this together. Sorry, he's the PI for the Exceed grant, which is it's on a second 5-year incarnation. It's ends in 2 years. It was a $94 million sum grant that actually spans this and nationwide. Next thing you look at down here, the blue campus engagement. See the two names? Henry who? Henry name and then in charge of that breakout is Kelly Gaither, who's at Texas Advanced Computing Center. So we got Dana and Henry, who know 2 years ago became the leaders of the Campus Champions. team, but what you need to remember is Data, look on her shoulder. She, as she has said herself, is the mother of dragons. People watch Game of Thrones, read Game of Thrones. 1, 2 people, that's it. Oh my God, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's enough. So she, as she has said, she likes minions. She is the gate of the mother of dragons. Her goal is to take over the world, or the world she conceived, which is 7 continents. So, oh no, not 7. Hold on, one more. The 6, no, there's 8. The 8 continents of the regions of June. And then Henry, as you might know, is the money man. He can do anything you want. He is money. He prints it himself. He almost looked up, but he did not. So there's a map. There's lots of champions. There's a picture. This is from, I think, last year's perk. The first year's perk. There's a leadership team, which I used to be on as Dan boss, and now I am lead as Dana Brunson. They're elected this year. First year they're elected. My term ended, me and Jack Smith. And we have Hussein, he's on the team now. And what else? No, and then Marisa Brazil, if you don't know her, she is, she's the best. She does everything for the champions, coordination, management, connecting, everything. There are also regional champion territories, which was discussed this year. Like, do we need to have hard lines in regions, or can you just float around? I think the answer is, Champions is an open organization. If it suits you, helps you, whatever, please join, help, go to, whatever you do. In the beginning, they designated areas geographically closer that you can meet with or have regional support groups. Those people have leaders too, and we have other people on it. Aaron's here, who is
I'm the old one. Kevin Brandt from South Dakota is going to be.
So Aaron's the old one, Kevin's the new one, and then we have people from K-State, North Carolina, Notre Dame in the room, right? Representing. There you go. Is there like an ND you guys do for your lettering? You don't have a sign.
You can turn around.
I can sign away.
He didn't sign a waiver. The guy who didn't sign a waiver can't show us the Notre Dame sign, so that's fun. And then Scott Yokel's on here too, who I stole lots of his slides from, and he will be talking on Thursday. So the 4 facings, this is where we're going to jump around. Does anyone know what 4 facings means? Heard the phrase before? Well, one really well. So a couple of you, good for you. So I on Friday wasn't quite sure. So when Henry said I had to do this talk, I was like 4 facings. It didn't click somewhere. I know I heard it somewhere, so I Googled it. What's the first thing you do? You have a question? Google it, and it comes up. There's 4 ways to finish a facing edge. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. And so there's the sewing, right? Necklines, armholes, hems, openings. 4 things on the right track. Turns out there's only 3 types of facings: shaped, extended, and biased. So I was wrong. That's our jump in. Now we're jumping out. SIG HPC education chapter. Who here is part of the ACM, Association for Computing Machinery? Are any of you also in the SIG HPC chapter? So like 4 or 5 of you. They are a virtual chapter of the ACM. You got to spend, I think, $25 to join it. They merge with the International HPC Training Consortium, and they're for training education. I didn't know much about it. I gave a talk a couple weeks ago at PERC. I did some more digging. Turns out they have 1,500 members that are part of the SIG HPC, 50 different countries, 4 of them from outside the US. So quite a big group. And then the question, what do? They give you fellowships. They have some travel money if you're going to present at conferences. As part of the ACM, they give you access to digital content on the HPC theses. And they have an executive board. They have a whole bunch of stuff which I had never heard of. They also have 4 chapters. I think that we're talking about earlier: big data, education, assistant professionals, and resource constraint. I'm not quite sure what that means. I guess that means small institutions join together to talk about not having resources. Anyone part of these groups? One, which group are you part of? Education. Education.
Syspros.
Syspros. Anyone in resource constrained?
Kind of.
Have you been to their meetings or things? What are they talking about?
Last year. Yeah, I think so.
And so what do they focus on? So they're talking about universities.
Considered environment like the African clusters or the African schools wouldn't not part of the old ranger system.
Oh, because they took the computers from here over to Africa. So if you want to make, borrow, or steal resources, this is the way to find things to get. So I'm learning about all this. I'm not a SIG HPC member, but I'm telling you about it. You guys tell me more about it. What else do you guys get out of it? Crickets? Not much. That's why we're here, to learn and update their chapters. They also have things you might not know about. They have webinars, travel grants, professional recognition. So if you want to be recognized for your efforts, and the big thing with ACM is the library and publications. Okay, the carpentries. Who here is part of has been to a software data carpentry? Still a couple. How many people here are instructors for software data carpentry? Nothing to say, but a couple less. So the carpentries have been around for a few years now. They have volunteer instructors who will teach you basics like the shell, R, genomic stuff. What else is there? There's Git, Git access, Python. They have a Python module, and all these things are online, available, and by the community, edited, added, and there's a new carpentry called HPC carpentry that's in the works right now. Just a meeting at Perk 2 weeks ago. So I have to plug the one we're doing. So Aaron Bergstrom here from North Dakota, we are sponsoring a data carpentry workshop at the Research Technology Day next month at the University of Missouri. So if you're an enroller or like to go to RTD, it's a fun time. We're doing the data carpentry workshop that Saturday and Sunday, the 14th, 15th.
The 15th and 16th.
15th, 16th of September. So if you want to go to one, we are sponsoring that from the Midwest Big Data Hub.
Yes.
There's a sponsorship organization for that. And there is a calendar on the carpentry website. So if you're confused about software versus data carpentry versus HPC carpentry, turns out whenever you become an instructor, you can be a carpentry instructor for anything. So software just focuses on the software side. Data tries to dig in some more of the big data problems. They use the R. They spin up Amazon Web Services to do some of their work. And the HPC carpentry should be when it starts up. Do we have a scheduled date for that yet, Henry?
For what?
The first HPC carpentry series?
I have no idea.
He did look up. See how many times? Who's counting? Someone's gonna count. 2. That's not bad in like 15 minutes. So the 4 facing, let's jump back. So 4 facing again, I had no idea. So we thought, well, I should remind me, who can name the presidents on the, who can name why we have 4 presidents on the Washington Monument? Sorry. I gave away Washington, Mount Rushmore. 4 facing of Mount Rushmore. You're from North Dakota, so you're close by, Aaron. Do you know why?
It was a work project by the federal government in the 30s in order to
Yes, and they picked 4 people who did some big benefits to the U.S. So
They ran out of money before they could get
to 5. So George Washington, first president. Thomas Jefferson, main author of the Declaration of Independence. Theodore Roosevelt, because he ushered us into the new century and he did great things. And then Abraham Lincoln, because of the Civil War. Am I too loud or too soft?
Too soft. Everybody shout louder. Hopefully this will improve things.
All right, once again, so you have that. That's not quite right, 4 facing. So, once again, space bar doesn't work. Come back. So I thought 4 facing, there has to be something that ties into something. You guys all remember Sesame Street. Who still watches Sesame Street? It's been on for 42 years. HBO, you still watch it? See, we got people who know what Sesame Street is. So Sesame Street, 4 facing, pick 4 things. This is going somewhere. Just pay attention. Just remember it. Watch out, big word. Important. College for Academic Scientific Computing. 4 facing. Who is on Mount Rushmore? Big Bird. You're not paying attention?
Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster. Birds. Oscar. No, Oscar. Is that all right? Not yet, but that's all right. Who said Oscar? Good Just wait for that. We're coming. Coalition for Academic Study Community. CASC. This is the HPC Directors Club. People here are part of the CASC, or at least their school is. Just 4. That's it. So I guess it is a pay-to-play club. It's got a $4,000 per year dues that they pay for. I guess the meetings and a lobbyist in DC that helps promote the agenda. And it's a pretty cool club. I was never part of the club. I wasn't a cool kid. But they get together and they have their own email list. I learned last week at Perk that they won't share those email conversations. You must be in CAS. That feed means something. That gives you access to the email, the list, what they talk about. They have this big ROI, a cloud group now that is researching cloud initiatives and how much it costs for investment. There's a BOF at Perk. So that's cool if you can afford it. But if you're a resource constrained or small institution, just try to beg, borrow, and steal. Then there's CARC, which is a new consortium, Campus Research and Thinking Consortium, which there is a talk on Thursday, so I won't go into too much detail. Scott Yokel from Harvard will talk about CARC. NSF funded project to pretty much get community understanding, challenges and values, and they're creating reports, doing surveys, and getting together to help us understand the challenges and what's coming next. It's pretty cool what they're doing. I have some of the results from their last paper in here. I'll show you, but Scott will go more into detail on Thursday. And I think they have this on 20 here are members of CARC. Taking a handful, so we have a handful of people. So then we need to get everyone else in here involved in CARC, HPC, carpentries. That's our goal for the end of the week is to get you all to sign up and for Henry to look up 5 times, 6 times. Hey, we got 3. We're going. We're moving. All right, Tasting 1. Back to Sesame Street. You guys remember Sesame Street? Tasting 1. Who is that? The Count. And why is he the Count? Because he is good at talking with people. He's the sponsor, stakeholder-facing roles. He knows his numbers. He dresses well. And he speaks and writes professionally. He has an amazing ability to understand his numbers. And I knew a guy, and I'm sure there's many people who are directors and CI leaders. He kept a jacket on the back of his door when he had to go talk to the institutional leaders because it's important to dress the part. Even if you're faking it to make it, or if you have no idea what you're doing, at least look like it, and speak like it, and write like it. So these are from Scott's talk, and they did a whole survey about these 4. You talk to your vendors, your staff. Agency institution, you are the face of the HPC research cyber infrastructure at your institution. You also talk to stakeholders who have different needs too. They want to be educated, sustainability community. I won't go into the details because once again, Scott's got all these on his Thursday talk. This is just an introduction to the 4 facings. And the end users too. You are across the board. You need to understand their needs, what helps them, what pushes them, and then who you can lean on to do some of the other processes. Remember the count. Sponsor stakeholder facing role. That's number 1. Now we got Exceed Service Providers Forum. This is a group of the centers which you can give time on from the Exceed allocation process. So there are some that are fully allocated to Exceed. There are some that are partially allocated based on their grants. And there are some that don't even give anything to Exceed. That's the tier 3 Exceed Service Providers, which I believe OU is one of them too. You guys are in tier 3 of Oklahoma State. There's many. And all you can do is publish your resources. You don't have to give anything to Exceed, but at least say what you have and who you give it to. This would be part of the Exceed Service Provider tier 3 forum. But the big ones are the TAC is pretty much NSF sponsor completely. They're almost a 90% soft money organization. San Diego Supercomputing Center has their Comet supercomputer. Pittsburgh has Bridges, their Bridges supercomputer, which is their high memory machines for NSF. Indiana and TAC have the what is their cloud this thing's called?
Jetstream.
Jetstream. Who am I missing? Utah has something there too, as part of Jetstream. As a cloud initiative. That's 5. Louisiana, they have some GPUs, and then somewhere out west. What am I thinking of?
Arizona is also part of Jetstream.
Arizona, and then Stanford. Is it Stanford that has some GPUs that are part of the
Yes,
thing
they
too? Yeah, Stanford. So those are the main ones. But you can go to the Exceed request site, and they'll pull up institutions you're allowed to request hours on. And remember, who's a campus champion here? Still have. So if you know what campus champions is, you can, once you become a champion, you get like 300,000 hours of compute time that you first give away to your users to try things out. That's level 1. If the users like it, they can ask for their own access hours, which is a small research allocation. They get their own hours for a supercomputer. Level 2. And level 3 is like a long-term research, 1 million hours of stuff you can do on a C supercomputer. So you have levels to get access to these resources for your users, which is simple. So you sign up, you have hours, and you add them to your allocation. So it's an easy way to get your researchers into different things you might have. They need GPU access or Bridges high memory. Bridges high memory machines, the biggest ones are 16 terabytes? 16 to 13, there's so many. More than you could ever use in one program. So there you go, level 1, level 2, level 3. So the level 1s are the Stampedes and Comets and Bridges, fully integrated. Partial ones are the Extreme, Supermike, Louisiana. Open Science Grid, I forgot about Open Science Grid. So Open Science Grid is part of Horse World that came from the hierarchy physics people. And they have a distributed system that sends small jobs, 1 or 2 cores, across the world to Open Science Grid sites, which lets you scavenge cycles wherever you want. So you can also ask for OSG hours, which if you have 1 million jobs that do this much work in like 4 to 6 hours, launch that anywhere in the world. And you can do that through Exceed or through OSG. And then the SGCI, because we love our acronyms, is the Science Gateways Community. They host, I think, 80% of Comets, 80% of Gateways is from NSF is hosted on Comet in San Diego. So that's where you have the web pages, interfaces that let you just drop down boxes, pick what you want. It goes to a specific type of resource like chemistry or other, biology, sociology, something. And then if you become a tier 3 institution, you can also hang out with Dan Santio, the director of tech, for every 2 weeks, hear what you guys do. We want to hear how they run it at the big places, hang out with Dan. All right, and then we have our CI state and regional groups. So in Oklahoma, Henry already talked about one Okie, and he loves making his acronyms have a sound like a word. So one Okie is the One Oklahoma Cyber Infrastructure Initiative. Is that the last time? And then Missouri is the same thing. He talked to Missouri and what they do. Who is from Missouri? You're from Missouri. Show Me CI. Have you read the Show Me CI? You've been to the website. That's good enough. So that's the same thing. Collaborative group in Missouri. CanShare. I helped write that one. And if you read it, it's the exact word from Winoki, except everywhere we had Oklahoma, we just changed it to Kansas. I told it. We just swapped it. Henry is very good with these things. If you need something or want to share something, they will help you make it happen in your area. So me and the guy from K-State, Dan Andreessen, we took Winoki and we just crossed off a few things, called it Kansas, and we pushed that through. And another big thing is, Henry said before, you guys said day one, grants make things happen. If you want your university to do something, I couldn't get CanShare signed by my university for like 2 years until I was submitting a grant for the CC Star at NSF. I said, I need this to show NSF that we're serious about whatever we get to share and collaborate and stay. And they're like, this will help you get money? Yes. So they signed it that day. So you leverage, right? You might, even if support somewhere else, money speaks. Florida's the same one. I came from Florida State. Circus started there. It's the Sunshine State Education Research something consortium ad hoc. I don't know. It's an organization. New York has one, Virginia, and the Great Plains is grouped in the 12 states in the Midwest. Anyone else have any state initiatives they have with cyber infrastructure? What do you got?
Kimber in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, what?
Kimber, Kinder in Pennsylvania.
Kimber, do you know what that stands for?
Yeah, it's like the key, it's like Keystone Initiative, let's see here.
The first time, you're Googling it, right?
Keystone Initiative for Network-Based Education and Research.
Keystone Initiative, is that named after?
Keystone State.
SURA, Southeast Universities Research Association, used to be involved in cyber infrastructure, but I can't speak to them.
Where are they? Georgia?
No, they're pretty much the consortium of the entire southeastern U.S. They stretch into Louisiana and Texas as well.
So there are a few, if you know about them, if you don't know about them, find out about them and work together. Henry?
So I think one of the things is there's also sort of a spectrum of them. So Kimber, I think, is primarily, though by no means exclusively, focused on networking within the state of Pennsylvania. So sort of equivalent, for example, in Oklahoma, we have OneNet. And for us, OneNet is part of the One Oklahoma Cyber Infrastructure Initiative. It's not itself the One Oklahoma Cyber Infrastructure Initiative.
Texas has something similar in Learn, the regional optical network.
Yeah, I think almost every state in the U.S. has something like that. And some of them are actively promoting cyber infrastructure collaboration around the state, and others are not.
So like the Great Plains Network has a beacon pop in Kansas City for all the regional states, but it also has a cyber infrastructure research division, which a guy from Oklahoma who used to be part of your OneNet, James Deaton, now runs that from Great Plains Network.
Right.
So, and we're going way too fast because I have like a lot of time left. You guys got to speak more. Organizations.
So how much can you tell us about the Maria Alliance? I'm actually not familiar with that one at all.
I can click on it. Is that working while we're on?
I don't know.
I can't click on it. Who can Google Maria Alliance fastest? Let's go.
The Rocky Mountain states also have a consortium.
They do.
Colorado does have one.
It's called the Rocky Mountain something, isn't it?
Rocky Mountain Advanced Computing Consortium.
RMAC.
That's right.
Colorado's front
So-
plane or British Gigapop also has a computing consortium for infrastructure consortium.
This
Someone
is
online
Mary.
speaking.
This is Mary. Oh, I'm like, oh. This is Gail Crowbert from Internet
This is
2.
Gail Crowbert from Internet 2.
And I just wanted to say that sorry, I have a huge delay. But all the organizations that are listed there are state or regional networks. And as you mentioned, they generally do have a network focus. Every state in the country does have some kind of organization like that. Sometimes it's just a main research institution that's running it. And like you said, they do primarily focus on networking and make sure you're connected, but many of them offer other services as well. So like, for example, you mentioned, the Great Plains Network has and Learn and Scenic, and many of those networks have a whole variety of services, including various research engagement functions, not just networking.
Thank you.
Unmute.
Yes, we're unmuted. So, Maria, who won? Oh, don't tell me no one Googled it. Who Googled Maria?
I actually did.
Oops.
If you turn the mic, I won't come back. So, did you want me to tell you what I found? Okay, so it says the Maria. It's a Mid-Atlantic Research Infrastructure Alliance. It is dedicated to facilitating access to advanced information, instruction, and research infrastructure technology, and advancing research and education in the United States. I need my glasses on. makes this bigger. It's an independent Virginia non-stock corporation governed by its members. So there's the College of Williams and Mary, George Mason University, James Madison University, Oldham for collaborations in terrestrial computing and high performance networking among its members. It doesn't give a lot of details as far as if there's a cost, but if you need more information, you can contact them or create a form called 990. And that's all I can find so far. It doesn't really give a lot more than that.
All right, I unmuted, thanks, Horst. So that's Maria. So please look, if you're not part of organizations, look at, and there could be another resource for you to work with. All right, now we're going to synchronous training, which means you're not learning on your own, but you're learning in a group, kind of like this, except someone's not talking at you. This is a workshop. Talk with me. Linux Clusters Institute. You guys have held one of those here before, right? How many have you done here, Henry?
I think we've hosted 3 of them so far. I think that's right.
They're around the country. They'll come to you. They bring their instructors, and they'll teach sysadmin skills for
to do one introductory workshop, and so far it's been one intermediate workshop. And by the way, by so far I mean we've done it twice. And these are typically done in the summer, so usually there's one in late May, early June, and then one in early August.
what is the competition criteria?
Oh, how do you get selected as a host site? You sound like you know how to run a workshop. It literally is that. We actually stole the workshop host site application form from the National Computational Science Institute. They are very, very good at selecting sites that are likely to do a good job hosting a workshop, because the host site has a huge influence on the success of the workshop, no matter who the instructors are and where they come from. And so it's things like, do you have a room on campus where you can hold this? Do you know that you can get it? Do you know who to talk to get it? Does it have a projector? Do you have a hotel where people can go and get a decent rate, but you can book? Do you need to book a set of rooms in advance? Is the workshop liable for the cost of those rooms, even if nobody fills them? And so on and so forth. There's a ton of questions. It's sort of a weeding process to eliminate people who either don't know who to talk to get these questions answered or can't be bothered. Because after all, good rule of thumb, anytime you do an RFP, if they're not willing to do the hard work before they get your money, how willing are they likely to be to do the hard work after they already have your money?
When is the next LCI? We're remember, this is good. We have 30, 45 more minutes. It's not gonna be a long time at all. So virtual residency, you're here now. You should know what that is because you're sitting in it. This is the 4th year.
I have a question.
Yes.
How this Linux Cluster Institute work? I mean, it's hosted every year by different cohorts or.
Yeah, so like Henry said, they have a competition where they ask different sites if you want to host the Linux Cluster Institute. They have volunteer teachers that come to you and they pick the top site to host a introduction, and an intermediate workshop. So the next one that Yale is doing next week in New Haven. And for a full week, every day. This is your first one. Who's been to one before? Besides Henry. Anyone else besides Henry? Aaron. Long time ago. Is it all day, every day? You just on a command line doing debugging and things? Yeah. 8 to 5, 5 days on command line. Have to bring a laptop. Do you guys have like supercomputer access? Do you break a supercomputer and build a
Yeah,
supercomputer?
they create and like temporarily access for them on the systems, and then we will work on.
So 8 to 5 every day, learn how to be an HPC system. And if you had that, do you put it like on your resume to get a job as an HPC system? Do HPC systems come with this, or people wanting to be HPC systems?
This is the intermediate one. So you already had some experience with schedulers, and then you went on. So they have 3 levels of the workshop, and each level is a different university, different city.
Do they make you go to the previous one to get the intermediate and advanced, or is it just? So if you want to go to the deep end, let's say jump in and swim.
Yeah.
As far as putting it on your resume, it can't hurt. Nowadays, career placement places tell you that unless you've been working more than 10 years, you should never have more than 1 page for the actual resume. But you can have 1 page of accomplishments or pre-professional learning, and that's where you would put this and that, and tell you what, anybody that wants to live in Baton Rouge, we need a data storage guy, and my husband likes to train his own people from scratch, but they have to know how to spell Linux. So if you got somebody in mind, a good student, PhD, postdoc, upcoming person, send them to LSU. Tell them to send their resume to LSU.
Do they have to know how to spell HPC?
Probably, but Isaac says it's more important for him to have people spell Linux.
If he's doing big data at this point, probably not yet.
Well, he's doing data storage for the
Then
supercomputers,
yes, they're
And
gonna
he's-
have to spell
he's-
HPC.
and he's doing infrastructure for the supercomputers. And you stay there, if you do data storage there, you can stay there about 3 years, and any of the big data people, like, they consider Isaac's training as their special fishing pool.
Comment from out in Zoom land. The LCI recommends having the elementary workshop first, or have some experience as an HPC sysadmin. And by the way, for the introductory workshop, I think it's evolved to you have to have experience as a Linux sysadmin, but no HPC experience whatsoever. Now, if you have HPC experience, that's not a bad thing to show up to the introductory workshop, but they don't require it. And require is a very flexible word here. There is literally no way to enforce any of these prerequisites. The philosophy is the instructors assume that you have what the prerequisites told you to have. If not, you're likely to get left behind, and they won't slow down for you if the reason you're left behind is because you didn't have the prerequisites that were recommended. And that's true at both levels.
What's Henry's motto?
Make it till you make it.
Thank you till you make it. Don't be scared. If you want to, jump in, try it. What's the worst that can happen? You get behind, but you learn something anyways, and then now you're the expert more than you used to be.
And another comment from Zoomland, what's the process for applying for the workshop at your site? So I have a spam list, which all of you will be transferred to if you aren't already. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are already on my spam list and have received non-virtual residency spam from me? Okay. The rest of you will be, so don't worry about it. I'll probably be doing that today, certainly this week. But you will get an email on that spam list from me on behalf of the Linux Clusters Institute. I'll be forwarding it from them. And they will provide instructions for how to apply to be a host site. And I'm not sure if it'll be the same this year. Last year, I believe we used a 2-stage thing. The first stage was a very short application that just said name, institution, a few other bits of information, and we plan to apply. And then the second stage of it was the detailed thing that I talked about a little bit ago. And yes, indeed, another comment from Zoomland, free, 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 free. How many of you recognize that phrase? Yeah. And it is we don't use that one for LCI because it's not free. It is free to host, so that's nice. It's not free to attend. But free to host, that's free not in the sense of free beer, not in the sense of free speech, but in the sense of free puppy. There's no charge going in, but it will cost you an arm and a leg, and it's going to make a mess everywhere.
How much does it cost to do the LCI?
To take the workshop, it's usually in the $400 to $700 range for the whole week. But you'd have to go look on the website to see what the current one is. I think it's around $500 normally.
It's just the registration.
That's just the registration. You're then responsible entirely for your own travel costs. So you're paying your airfare, you're paying your hotel. All-in cost figures between $1,500 and $2,000 unless you live nearby. In fact, that's one of the incentives for hosting a workshop, is then you can send all your people to the workshop, and all you have to pay is the registration. Saves you a fortune. Current and from Zoomland, the current one is $700 registration fee.
And in theory, your institution might have training budgets to send you if you do not know about that. Or they don't know, maybe SIG-HPC has travel funding for things, but I think but there's always, if you're a student, a lot of student organizations have travel funding for things like this, or presenting papers too. So be aware. So we're in the virtual residency. You know what it is. We're in it because you're here right now. So I won't talk too much about it. You can have an entire week of it. And then there is the Exceed monthly series on HPC topics. So they'll do workshops you can host at your site. Same thing. They have different sites that want to know: can you project? Can you have microphones? Can you have laptop access? And you have to request to be a hosting site for Exceed. And they'll have remote teachers, and you have to have someone on site to help out the people in the room. That's one of the requirements of the Exceed hosting series. So this is more of there's someone remotely training, but someone going to be on site to help the people do it locally at your institution. So come to one room, sit down, have a guy help you out. They're pretty good too. They're very, people who do the instruction series are very knowledgeable. They're experts, which means they know more than you. And then if you want to go to the course calendar, it's down there, the link. It's next. Asynchronous training, do your own. There's online training everywhere. Exceed has it. ACI Ref, the first one, not the virtual residency, has their own document and materials from that link. And then Exceed has their own YouTube channel. You go there and watch videos as much as you want. And supposedly now we have closed captioning from YouTube, so it's all legit, legal, and
Most of the centers that are members of Exceed have all kinds of asynchronous training through CI Tutor or Moodle or whatever, that you just give them a valid email address.
so a lot of those, are they behind a locked door? You're going to be a student or faculty or
Registration only.
some are. Our university did that. We had our trainings online. You had to be a KU student or faculty or researcher staff to get into those trainings.
Well, I'm sure there are some like that. There are a lot of, especially at the beginner and intermediate field, there are a lot of things that, like I said, you just give them a valid email address. I was in an Exceed training. We had two people from Japan that had nothing to do, and they were in the industry, and they joined. Now that wasn't asynchronous, but they did put it on Moodle afterwards.
How many people here have used Khan Academy? Are there kids who use Khan Academy? So, I mean, stuff like there's so much out there that pretty much you want to know what you want to do.
I have.
The last one is the Exceed training.
No.
Oh, no, Khan Academy. It's what kids go to learn math, science, whatever. It's a low-level thing. It's, what does MOOC stand for? Massive Online something.
Open course.
Massive course. Open classroom, of course.
It says in classroom, that was the original meeting, I haven't had
All right, we got a few more slides, which by few I mean like 30. So practice and experience in advancing something, research computing. That the first year was last year. Before that it was called the Exceed conference. But Exceed was too restrictive. They wanted to open up to a large group of people. And so who came up with that idea? I don't know who. Henry, did you come up with that? Let's just say Henry. Henry came up with the idea.
I totally did not.
Someone did somewhere. I first heard it was John Towns.
Was it a requirement from their group on follow-on funding for Exceed that they have to spin off?
I don't think so, because they were planning the next Exceed conference, and then after they selected the committee to start it, they switched it in the middle to become PERC. So that was a guy from NCAR, David. He was the guy that ran PERC 2 years ago. So PERC was new, but it was supposed to open the conference up to more people to Exceed. So if you were to Exceed, this opened up to more people, and we had 600 and some, which is this year. Of that, 200-ish were campus champions from Exceed. So it has gotten bigger than Exceed only, and so it's a good sized conference.
Do you have a location for next year?
Yes, Chicago, Illinois.
Still being part.
Yeah, downtown at some on the river.
It's not Indianapolis, that says something.
So this year was Pittsburgh. The year before was New Orleans. The Exceed one before that was Miami. So they're small. They're very focused on research computing, and next year's topic is AI. And Tom from Buffalo is the chair this year. So, and then supercomputing. How many people here have done supercomputing? Not the same number. So supercomputing's every November, week before Thanksgiving. This year it's in Dallas. Last year it was in Denver. That's a gigantic 10,000 person throw. Anything flashy, fancy, vendor, plus education tutorials, birds of feathers together. So the SIG-HPC meets there. That's their, I think, the annual meeting of the SIG-HPC. A lot of people have offs and stuff because everyone is there. At least half the people in this room are there. If you haven't been, it's a sight to see. You can walk for miles and get lots of, Henry throws out lots of swag for his supercomputing and plain English. You get shirts, cups, hats, spinning toys, and whatever you want. Eric, you had something to say?
It's a great conference.
It is a great conference. Workshops, half day all day, and then they have the supercomputing conference, which is a lot of vendors and universities together to show up what they do, how they do it. There's books and talks, anything you want to do. It's in Dallas this year. It's a good place to meet people, see what's coming next, and there's great talks across the board. You have no idea what they're doing. Like, a lot of the national labs and things are just doing some crazy things. RMAC, we talked about RMAC. It should have been on the previous slide. There's your Rocky Mountain Advanced Computing Consortium, we're calling it Center Consortium.
Yeah.
They have a yearly conference, which I guess is this week, 2 days. Who's going to it? And we're going to, no one here is from Colorado, are they? No one's from the west side? Well, yeah, you're from Colorado, but you guys are here, so thanks for coming here. Great Plains is there, Oklahoma. This is Henry's pitch for his supercomputing symposium. What do you want to say about it?
It's fantastic, and we feed you. Oh, and it's free.
And it's free, and free, and free, probably 7 more fees. It starts on a Tuesday, I think. Tuesday night, there's a poster session
And free
and
food.
a chocolate fountain.
Mhm.
Disappear quick, marshmallows. And then he does a
Booze.
Yes, there's booze too. I
Free
forgot there's
booze.
free booze. Well, free booze because ticket
Yeah.
price, but still free booze.
But people do not consume all their tickets, so if you want to have more than your allotted 2 drinks, it's pretty easy to get someone to give you a ticket.
And the next day is filled with all sorts of talks and things and keynotes. It's very, very good, very packed in a day and a half. It's fun. You can't get enough hammered. All right, Thanksgiving 2. Who we got?
Oscar
Oscar who?
the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. And if Oscar the Grouch, what would you guess he would face? Besides his trash can.
Users.
What? Come on. No, systems facing role. Oscar the Grouch. How would you use it? That's not nice. Or Oscar the Grouch, you know, I don't know which one. Take your pick. What does Oscar stand for? No, come on. Besides the people who work here, it's on every slide at the bottom. You read the tiny print. Oklahoma Supercomputing
Center for Education and Research.
Very good. So systems basic role. Why? He never leaves his garbage can. He has you guys remember he has an underground lair. He can go in his garbage can. He has like miles and miles of like, I guess, Oscar the Grouch garbage cave in the data center. And he's somebody, like, he's nice when he wants to be. You know, he can be forward facing. He can talk to people if he needs to. If he doesn't, he can retreat to his underground lair and do what he needs to do. Also, Oscar the Grouch can also teach a new generation of scientists. Now that HBO has bought out Sesame Street, they are focusing on STEM research. They're going to have them do, let's say, Oscar the Grouch and the rest of the gang will build bridges, launch rockets, and think through problems that require trial and error observation and collection of words. Asking our toddlers to think like scientists and engineers. So really, this fits very well. It was a huge theme. I had this thought ahead of time because Sesame Street is for STEM. So remember that. Once again, Scott up there will tell you more about the system basic. And Dirk will tell you next in his talk at what time did you talk? 1:30? 1:30. Dirk will tell you a lot more about the systems basic role. So there are 6 things the systems guy does. You bottom up. Security, privacy, and partnership communication. But how many layers are in the OSI model? 7. What does OSI stand for? Oh my God.
What's that?
Open Systems Interconnects. There you go. So 6 is not enough. This is truly, there has to be 6, but I don't like 6 because it doesn't match OSI. So there's 7. Don't have that happening in yourself.
Finance and religion.
Well, not at the systems. Those things. So stay out of it. Why is it? This is so true. I was in Nebraska 2 weeks ago working with them. This is their dashboard. Say I think the lower left is green and red are fish doing networking. The middle one is something with activity, and the right one is whatever. So, but if you can't read the top one, this is monitoring. Is their donuts board. They had a donut board. How many donuts are left? When's it been since the last updated? So yes, it is very important. Don't forget donuts. The systems people. This is real. This I didn't make this up. This is true. And now we're off the faces again. Other entities. We have the Science Gateways community, which is part of the seed stuff we talked about. The first ACI ref, which Henry talked about day 1, that there were a number of institutions on the grant. Then someone from Clemson had to call everyone and say, yeah, you just might quite work good enough to make the final cut. And so there were, I think, 6 institutions on the first ACI ref. And that is why we were here now, because Henry's like, leverage this. We can make this into something else and they can figure the community. Cyber ambassadors, Dirk right there is going to talk about it. We haven't met Dirk, Michigan State Him and his wife are the two PIs on it's a cyber training grant they got last year, Cyber Ambassadors. If you Google Cyber Ambassadors, all you can find yet, but it does have a link to the NSF reward, so it is there. There is something called Cyber Ambassadors for Security, something or other, but that's not the same thing. And there's a whole bunch of other acronyms that we'll go through. United Kingdom, sustainable stuff, and more institutes. I am not a part of, but I will talk about them. SGCI is only a couple years old. They will do internships, monitoring, or mentoring, travel funding. Connect your young professional network. So if you're young and professional, you should work with them to have a network. And gateway related, whoever thought you could be a gateway developer as a career? For the thing. Before, I mean, that was never a thing years ago. This whole CI has opened a new world of things you can do. Like Henry, when he applied for grad school, and he wrote graphics research somewhere. Same thing, you write gateway somewhere, or full stack, or HPC, it'll open doors you never done. ACRF, this was the first one, the NSF funded 2013 project. 6 institutions, Clemson, Harvard, Hawaii, USC, Utah, Wisconsin. And they hired, I think, a couple people per university to be ACI reps. They were research and education facilitators. We're supposed to figure out how this works. Their job was to, well, we don't have this yet. There's no career path for this. NSF is going to pay for people to do this and figure out how it works. And I mean, some of them would spend time researchers facing, systems facing, your ticketing system, figure out what people are asking, just to understand how you can help facilitate the research and education. Async 3, who do we got? Elmo. And who is Elmo? What do you think Elmo does? What is he good at? Selling toys. He's a sales. That's good salesman. I like that. So we got Elmo. And he talks. I can't. I gotta. I tried to Elmo with nothing. Love it. That's good. Elmo, researcher base, right? He's nice. He's cute. He's cuddly. He can help researchers. Is Henry cute, cuddly?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey! So, I mean, once again, Scott wrote this stuff. This is from this slide on Thursday. So part of the CARC, they did this study, and they had a paper out, and they did a huge thing. So this is what they came up with, the research. Engage researchers with facilitated collaborations, communication, and solve complex problems. That's your job. You gotta be cute, cuddly, and patient. Not stretchy as right, Cyber Masters. I won't talk much about it because we'll hear a lot about this afternoon. Once again, it was Dirk Strait right there.
I have a comment.
So, yes.
One of the training materials we're putting together is how to prepare a good slide, and this would violate most of the rules. I don't.
Yes. Horrible slide. Never had this many words. It's awful. But I had this for a talk last week, and I had a short amount of time, so I was trying to put lots of things on it. This is for reference. Don't read it.
You use this slide from someone
Yes.
else gave it to you.
I did. Yes, someone else gave me this stuff. Short time frame. Never do this. Lesson for everyone. You want this. Cute. Remember, it's bullets, big things, ignore the small things. United Kingdom. Anyone here know about the European side of things? Hey, we got one, because you're European.
Really?
Yes, I don't know.
Let me talk a little. Jen, I'm good.
German? Germanic? Where are you from? German. So,
But I got mine.
did you? So tell us. See, this is Richard.
I
Tell
will
us
talk about my talk
when is your talk?
at 3:30 today.
And what is the name of your talk?
Sustainability.
sustainability. So there's how long this has been around? 20 universities, and they want reproducibility, reusability, and accuracy. So how long does it work together over there? You were part of this organization, and it's cohesive and.
So, yeah, the research software engineering association was also partly initiated by the software sustainability institute in the UK, but not over there between people who are in the sustainability and also career paths contributed to that. And so those, yeah, I would say half of the people who are really leading the association are also and they got directly at the beginning for participating in university lab, which made it easier because these well-known universities, but the other followed up will have, also the part that research software engineers are really needed. And what I will also mention, I can also mention it already now. And so in the UK, also a little bit easier because the culture is a little bit different in academia. So negatively by the faculty. Only personal experience. But yeah, it's a different pipeline. The country is just smaller. So the universities are working almost together. So let's go to more the personal. I mean, we cannot change that in the USA. We have university.
Thank you.
I promise I don't repeat that all in the talk.
And then another great acronym, let's speed. Let's hey, let's speed. They really say it like that?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Working towards sustainable software for science, practice, and experiences. It should be that experiences. A couple years old, same thing, sustainability and research software. On different continents. So if you want to travel, that would be fun. Interactive groups, workshops, and sustainable software research. Is any research software sustainable? Not very well. It was all patchwork of some grad student somewhere most of the time. It does not work very well. Even the good stuff is hard to install half the time. Can we deliver this all morph? How much fun is that?
Now it's easy.
Now I'm even last year it's not.
Oh, last year it was easy. But
I
10
know.
years ago.
I spent a good portion of the year trying to install MorphCam.
Yes.
Okay. Version that particular student needed.
Yeah, but that was George Carroll. That's
somebody else.
WarpCam is its own animal. But 10 years ago, I can tell you how getting it compiled clean.
They have professional software developers who take previous code, like every research project with software. Someone else's code that did something to take something else and just glue it all together.
Yes, is actually working with developers around the world with more or less managing organization as a committee, but sort of was focused out of a MQ, and you do have a group of professionals in that group that try and write herd on it without much success, because you've got such a large organization around the world trying to contribute. An audit process, you submit new code, it is looked at. They try and agree what will and won't work, what can and can't be aligned with existing code. And every once in a while, they just throw all of that out the window and add something new that is incompatible with the prior code source. And that's when it starts.
Or it had dependencies, libraries, or something, whatever they have. You must download this version from 8 years ago, which doesn't compatible with the new kernel, which is
I love it when we'll just use the newest version. No.
Okay, so sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. The folks out in Zoom land cannot hear y'all, so we have to do one or both of the following. Either pass the mic around or scream bloody murder when you're talking.
I can project.
Huh?
I can project.
Good. Project up to those microphones. People aren't hearing you.
Okay.
All right, so that's work. How do you guys use bioinformatics or install bioinformatics software for people, and what is it all written in?
Everything.
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 Everything. Church. I like it.
It's a patchwork book, crazy.
Patchwork quilt is interesting. You have to have, I mean, yes. So I think virtual environments were made just to fit bioinformatics software into it. It's so crazy. That's what happens. That's what research software is. It's always on the cutting edge of something new. Someone has to figure out how to make something. And there aren't many projects that are long-term sustainable software projects. Who fund that? Who pays for that? I mean, for other research, you have to have that for other people. What's this thing?
So it's not just me who hates bioinformatics.
Everyone hates bioinformatics. There's no one that likes it. It's all a pain.
Only the author likes bioinformatics.
I'm skeptical on that one.
If users seem to think you should install it yesterday, everybody uses it, should be able to install it right now. The problem I've had with that in the past was, yes, you should install it yesterday because everybody uses it, but I want this version, not the version that you installed for somebody else.
Any other stories about software sustainability? What do you like? What's your favorite part of it? Just like, you looked up. That was your phone.
Okay.
Always stare at your screen.
Since I'm open, I see all of these platforms. What do you do?
Okay. If you insist, Gary, the approach that I've taken to that is I no longer support something built in a user's home directory or scratch. And that's all there is to it. If you need the code installed, let me know. I'll install it. I'll support a standard version. We'll get consensus on what everybody. I have the luxury of a relatively small group. We'll get some consensus on what they think they want. I'll install that. I'll support that. But I can note that there's not enough of me to support 20 different versions of, to use an example, or 20 different versions of a graphic package, or 20 different versions of Anaconda. So, but I've just had to clamp down. If they want to do it, they want to support themselves, that's great. They can even come ask questions. I will not fix their problem.
Comment from the Zoom land. Looks like we have a huge dislike of the current state of practice in bioinformatics software. Are there any efforts to bridge the communities versus cyber infrastructure providers? They badly need help getting their tools in good shape.
Maybe the National Center for Genome Analysis support can help them. I'm probably loud enough. Maybe the National Center for Genome Analysis support can help them. It's housed at Indiana University. It's an online space where you can get to genomic and biology data sets. They have tools and systems there. They're running a lot. They have an introduction to R for biologists workshop that they're getting ready to do.
Can you spell out the URL real quick?
ncgas.org.
ncgas.org.
Yep. And they also have a transcriptome assembly workshop. That is a 2-day workshop that is coming right up. And the applications were due for that yesterday, but you could probably still get in that.
So we had, I'm blinking on her name, the center here last year.
I don't remember.
So she
Where's
works.
Bobia? She's in
Right. Yes.
Is that your talking about?
Yeah.
Bobia Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's,
Who had-
I don't know if she's on right now.
She might be
signed up
online.
for
She is
remote
registered.
here.
Yeah.
She was on site last year. Yeah.
So yeah, so and they will also, I believe, because they're paid by NSF right now, so they will also come to you maybe if you have a bioinformatics training. There was talk about that last year. They scheduled some event depending on the NSF budget they had to do training in the region.
Right.
So,
And if you have, I don't know, they just got renewed, so they just did get renewed by NSF. I'm not sure what was included for education outreach in the renewal, but they are certainly willing to travel and host other workshops, especially if we have a little bit of money to get them.
but that is different than rewriting the software. That is training for the current software. Same thing with the data and software cartographies. They will train you how to use the current software. Rewriting is years ago. There was a guy who was at a conference and had a grad student talk about it and how convoluted it was. It's like there's got to be a better way. Turns out it's not very easy because you have to rewrite everything because it's a patchwork. Everything depends on something else and this something else and this something else. They're all just reading text files to do things. It's not an easy, straightforward problem. There's a lot of software because there's name it all after your suits.
And another comment from TV Land, everyone's punting to containers where they used to punt to virtual machines.
What is your, I've seen your container.
Oh, I have a screed about containers, yes. So containers are wonderful in the near term and a disaster in the long term. Because once you have something that works in a container, which of the following two things will you do? Will you keep using the container because that takes no labor at all? Or will you expend substantial labor porting to the next version of things? How many of you vote you will do the thing that is the least possible amount of labor? And how many of you vote you will do the right thing for the long term? Okay, Richard, you can't vote twice. Okay, all right, so what happens next year when a completely new flavor of chip comes out, the next version? So for example, the AMD EPYC chip came out at the end of last year, and the Intel Skylake came out at the end of that last year. And they have different compiler settings than you would have used on the predecessor thing for 5 years on the server side. For Intel, the previous thing was Haswell, did not have the AVX512 instruction set. So you want to port the code to the next version of the hardware, but if you won't port the code to the next version of the compiler and the operating system, will you get from the hardware the advantages that the new hardware is intended to give you and that your institution is buying the new hardware in order to get you? Port the software. I mean, if you vote yes, you will totally get those advantages, even though you didn't bother porting the software. No, you will not get the advantages because you didn't port the software. Okay, so that's 2 years from now. You're going to make the executive decision, it's a lot of work to port to the new software. I'll only get a factor of 2 improvement on my speed from doing that. So I'm not going to bother because it's a lot of work. I'll just keep using the container. All right, now, 3 years later, new flavors of hardware, new versions of the operating system, new versions of the compiler have come out. Is it easier or harder now that it's been 5 years instead of 2? Is it easier or harder to port to the new versions? How many of you voted it's easier now that it's been 5 years instead of 2? The software has drifted farther, therefore it's easier. How many of you voted it's harder now? So faced with the decision 5 years in, faced with the decision, should I keep using the same old containerized version that I know works perfectly well, although it's going to get me 1/4 of the performance, or should I go to the trouble of the labor of porting to the new version? Which will I choose? How many of you will choose no labor at all? Okay, anybody whose hand is not in the air is lying and you know it. How many of you will choose, it's harder now than it would have been 2 or 3 years ago, but I'll go ahead 10 years, that gets us what? A factor of 8, maybe a factor of 10 improvement in performance, but only if we can use the latest version of the compiler and the latest version of the operating system, right? So it's not that we need the latest version of the operating system, it's that the compiler is not compatible with 6 years ago, okay? Let alone 10 years ago, okay? So now you're faced with using containerized version that I know works, even though the code will run 1/10 as fast. Or I can now exert the massive labor cost, because now it's massive, right? It's been 10 years. Things are completely different. Now it's a massive labor cost. I can go to the trouble of the massive labor cost that I've blown off for 10 years, and now, realistically, I'm gonna go, oh, well, now it's totally worth it. All right, how many of you vote, yes, I will do the massive labor cost 10 years later to port my code to the new compiler and operating system? And how many of you vote, the more years go by, the lower the probability, and we started at 0? Okay, so once I'm in a container, I will never, ever do the right thing again. If I'm not in a container, I have to do the right thing because I have no choice. I'm going to run directly on the metal. I've got no choice. But if I've got a container, I'm protected from reality. But the downside of being protected from reality is I can't get use of reality. You just heard it. I hope you wrote it down in your head. But that's the reality. That's what containers give us. They give us near-term delight and long-term disaster.
Feeds right into the human psyche. But that's what I've been trying to preach in my community on, well, since containers first appeared and I looked at them.
Yep, and it's not going to work.
No, but containers are wonderful. They're easy, they're fast, we can transfer them, we can just do everything with them. It's going to just work.
So here is a lesson that I teach my students. I teach programming for non-majors every semester. And here's the lesson I teach them. When you were a little kid and you did something wrong, what did your parent or guardian do? When you did something wrong, you ran around screaming, you had a temper tantrum, you broke stuff all over the house. What did your parent or guardian do? First, they stopped you, and then they punished you, right? And why did they do that?
Trying to teach you a lesson about what happens when you do something bad.
Yeah, they want you to not get in the habit. What if they wait until you're an adult and can be reasoned with?
You've already torn up the whole house.
It's not just that you've torn up the whole house, although yes, you probably had to move to a new house at that point. Too late to break them. Which is easier, not developing a bad habit or breaking a bad habit? How many of you have bad habits? Okay, if your hand's not in the air, you're lying, you know. Okay. I crack my knuckles about 100 times a day. It drives my wife up the wall. Am I ever going to stop? Am I doing it to be a jerk? No. Why am I doing it? Because that's just what my fingers do when they're otherwise idle, right? All the time I'm cracking and I got a lot of different knuckles and a lot of directions that I can go. And that will literally, sometimes I do it so much my hands hurt. It will literally never end, okay? And it's because it's way too late to change that habit. The same thing is true with any kind of software development. If you let bad things get in, it's much harder to pull them out later, especially bad habits of software development.
I got 8 slides in 4 minutes. That means we're going to get out of here on time. You guys ready? Mercy, we had Wispy, Mercy. How did this year? Same thing. You need to do some. Not part of it. Who here is part of Mercy? No one. See, we have so many organizations we can join now.
That's okay.
What?
No.
Is that what?
I mean union.
No, that's not the USSR. It's the URSSR. was this? That's, good question. NSF, National Science Foundation. Oh, facing forward. Last one. Here we go. Who is this? What is he holding? H, which stands for? Stands for McHenry. Hey, he looked up. He looked up. That's that. What's our count? And what is Big Bird? Software and databases. But oh, hold on. Who has heard of his imaginary friend? Who's his imaginary friend? Not Henry's. Big Bird's. Snuffleupagus. Why is he also facing forward? You guys heard of Snuffy debugging, or better known as rubber duck debugging, or friendly fairy debugging? So you need to have someone to talk to about your software, your data problems. So once again, stolen from Scott. We'll tell you more on Thursday. Your data, your software, you deal with your documentation, your workflow. Someone interact with the sysadmins and engineers and domain scientists. You're in all those domains that help out your data and software. It's a great job. How many people here deal with data and software? It's part of their job. It's not bad, like 5 or 6. Yeah, you're talking about work and everything else. I mean, you have to do all this to make sure people can not even do it, but curate it, archive it, present it. There's a lot of work that goes into it. This is why there are multiple faces. People can change them. That's a good third one. Elmo, which because he's cute. Kelly, what's he do? Help people. That's right. Fourth,